The stories may be old, but the mysteries surrounding the Bell Witch continue to confound the people of Robertson County even today. Because what happened nearly 200 years ago defies all logic and offers a glimpse into that world at the edge of reason, a world where something lurks within every shadow. For the Bells of Tennessee, that something was the Bell Witch, an apparition dedicated to tormenting and torturing the family, especially its patriarch John and daughter Betsy. So pervasive was the witch's presence that she captured the attention of people all across Tennessee. Those who encountered her spoke about her in hushed tones. Those who disbelieved were not skeptics for long. The Bell Witch was persuasive. When the Bell Witch first appeared in 1817, the Bells couldn't know the dark and twisted path the witch would lead them on. After all, when she began to make her presence felt, all she did was indulge in what seemed to be good-natured fun. Sugar disappeared from bowls, milk was spilled, quilts vanished only to reappear in different places. Her tricks called to mind nothing more than a child's pranks. They were dismissed and forgotten, but these were only the prelude to what would be a symphony of terror. Who exactly was the Bell Witch? Nobody seems to know. Some speculate that she once loved John Bell, but he spurned her advances. When he married, she refused to leave him alone in his wedded bliss. At wit's end, Bell lured the woman over to his house and murdered her. So great was his desperation. Before she died, she promised to haunt him until his death. Another account paints the woman as a victim of Bell's questionable land dealings, while another has her on the short end of a slave exchange. These theories seem to agree that her name was Kate Batts, that she had been wronged somehow by John Bell, and that she would not rest until she had her revenge. Not content with providing simple irritations, the spirit began a campaign of physical abuse, kicking, scratching, slapping, and pinching various family members. Some days the witch scratched John's legs until it bled. Betsy's blankets were pulled from her bed as quickly as she could replace them, and while she slept she was stuck with pins and often woke in the morning with bruises running the length of her body. When the witch's victims cried out in pain, she responded with a shrill and frightful screech, clearly taking pleasure in her victims' suffering. News of the strange events on the Bell farm spread from county to county, and many people came hoping to catch a glimpse of the unusual. Many reported having conversations with the spirit, that she could be gentle and had a melodic voice. It seems that the witch reserved her words for the Bells and those who doubted her powers. One of those skeptics was General Andrew Jackson, the man who would be the seventh President of the United States. According to accounts, the Bell men had fought under Jackson in the Battle of New Orleans. They were close, men whose camaraderie had been forged in the fires of war. While in Nashville, Jackson heard about what was happening in the Robertson County. Organizing a party, Jackson and his men set out on horseback to see the Bell Witch for themselves. As they approached Bell's farms, they boasted about what they would do to the witch if she should confront them, how they would chase her away and rid Robertson County of her menace for good. It was all in vain. These men, whose wills had been tempered by physical combat, were ill prepared to oppose a being who took no physical form. No sooner had Jackson uttered his intentions than his wagon stopped abruptly, though the road was smooth and level, free of ruts or potholes. Jackson spurred the horse on with the lash, but as much as they strained and pulled, the wagon would not move. The horses struggled and fought, but they soon tired. The wagon having given not even an inch, Jackson gave up and is said to have proclaimed that it was the witch. She apparently answered, claiming that she would now let them go, but would return to them later that night. The wagon began to move. That night, while sleeping in the Bell's barn, Jackson had his covers ripped from his pallet, and the entire party was subjected to the slapping, pinching, and hair pulling that the Bells experienced so often. Jackson left soon after, saying that he would rather fight the British in New Orleans than the Bell Witch in Tennessee. Unfortunately, it was not so easy for the Bells to escape the witch. Try as he might, John could not escape her wrath. He moved from one home to another, only to find a precious few days of peace before the witch arrived again to visit her unique brand of hospitality. Despite 3 years of constant suffering, the worst was yet to come for the Bells. In October 1820, John fell ill. Some speculated he suffered a stroke as he had trouble speaking and swallowing soon after. Regardless, one morning John was found in bed in a deep stupor. Try as they might, his family could not rouse him into unconsciousness. His breath had a foul odor. Concerned, his son Jesse went to the medicine cabinet to retrieve his father's medication, only to find that it had been replaced with a strange looking vial filled with a viscous fluid that smelled very much the same as his father's breath. With quivering hand and nervous heart, Jesse asked his family about the vial. No one had any idea where it might have come from, but they feared it might be poisonous. A single drop was fed to the family cat. The animal dropped dead almost instantly. The Bell's collective gasp was overwhelmed by a maniacal cackle. It was a familial laugh. The witch's shrill voice rent the air, and she took credit for the vial, saying that she had used the liquid inside to kill John. Indeed, during the fuss over the mysterious vial, John passed away. John Bell was buried days later, and while the ceremony was relatively free from interruptions, as soon as the grave had been filled, the Bell Witch returned, filling the air with gleeful laughter. Soon after, she left the family, promising that she would return in 7 years. She did, visiting John Bell Jr. for about a month. Before she left, historians believe she left Bell Jr. with prophecies that predicted the coming of the Civil War, as well as the First and Second World Wars. Again, she promised to return, only this time it would be 135 years. No one knows if the Bell Witch ever returned to haunt the Bell's descendants, but there are those in Robertson County who believe the witch is now roaming the lands in or around Adams, Tennessee. If you believe the whispers, strange things are still happening out on the old Bell farmstead.